Tonight, a Channel 3 News exclusive. The Stark County Sheriff breaks his silence on what's being called a brutal strip search of a local woman.
It's a case that has prompted reaction nationwide. Now the investigator, Tom Meyer, with new information and new interviews, including a one-on-one with the sheriff and a warning. Some of the video in this story is disturbing.
Sheriff Tim Swanson taking a break from the controversial case involving his office and Hope Steffey. This is Sheriff's video of male and female deputies forcibly removing Steffey's clothes. The 5'5", 113-pound Stark County woman was left in a cell completely naked for 6 hours.
Hey, Sheriff, how are you?
Up until now, the sheriff has declined an on-camera interview. I caught up with him and his wife at a recent political event.
Would you want your wife handled that way inside a jail cell?
If they deemed it necessary and she was out of control, were you responsible for your actions or inaction?
How do you feel about that, Mrs. Swanson?
I wouldn't go out and do what she did.
You may recall what Steffey did on this particular night. She says a female cousin assaulted her, pulling a patch of hair from her head. Steffey had a relative call the sheriff for help. A deputy responded. Steffey accidentally gave the officer her deceased sister's driver's license, which she kept as a personal memento. There was confusion. Steffey suddenly went from victim to suspect. She called her husband that night from the Stark County jail.
I wanted to file a charge, and then she said I was disorderly and resisting arrest. They were pulling my hair off my head. I said, yeah, I want to file a charge.
The sheriff said Steffey was drunk, verbally abusive, and combative. He also said his jail is being forced to deal with an increasing number of uncontrollable inmates in need of mental health services.
Are you saying Hope Steffey's a mental patient?
I'm saying there's people who have lost control of their behavior. We used to probate people that had problems and take them to the hospitals in Massillon State. There is no more Massillon State. Guess who gets them?
Dennis Baker has 27 years experience in the State Department of Corrections, 14 years as either warden or deputy warden at some of Ohio's toughest prisons. We showed him the Steffey video.
Totally inappropriate.
Baker called it an unnecessary use of force.
It seemed like they had her under control, though, in that video.
Yeah.
It seems like when she went out of control is when they started removing her clothes.
Swanson dismissed the former warden's comments.
How would you respond to somebody with that kind of experience?
I've got more time than he does.
The sheriff says Steffey's clothes were forcibly removed because she refused to voluntarily take them off, an allegation she denies. Steffey was stripped of her clothes once the powers that be decided she was suicidal. Who made that evaluation? Steffey's lawyers argue that a psychologist never saw or spoke with Steffey. They say an LPN, a licensed practical nurse, and not a more skilled registered nurse, made the clinical assessment. They say an LPN is not allowed that authority under state law. Sheriff Swanson.
Was that an LPN or an RN? What was it?
Doctor.
The doctor wasn't there.
Well, nobody was conferred with.
By whom, though? Who was there that conferred with the doctor?
Whoever the nurse was.
Was it an LPN or an RN?
Right.
Which one?
I don't know.
In their latest complaint, Steffey's lawyers argue deputies involved in the physical handling and incarceration of Steffey did not receive specialized training in suicide and homicide precautions.
I'm not going to address their allegations. It'll come out in court.
Dr. Deborah Koricki is a psychologist who provides mental health services to a jail in another Ohio county. She saw the videotape of Steffey and doesn't understand how this kind of treatment helped to settle her down.
If she wasn't suicidal before, is she going to be after she goes through this? Or is she going to want to self-harm?
It's done a lot. We have a lot of prisoners in there totally naked in the cells, men and women.
According to former prison warden Baker, men should not have been in the cell to remove Steffey's clothes, including her bra and underwear. Swanson said in situations like this, members of CERT, his Corrections Emergency Response Team, intervene.
Or why was it necessary for men to be in there and actually have...
on the CERT team. I don't have the luxury and have the ability to have an all-women CERT team or all-men CERT team.
The state attorney general has investigated this case and found no criminal wrongdoing, but the civil case is still very much alive, and the question of whether Steffey's rights were violated will be answered at trial in federal court. Tom Meyer, Channel 3 News.
Channel 3 News tried to talk with both the jail psychologist and the head of the company that provides medical and mental health services to the jail. Our phone calls were not returned.